George R.R. Martin's epic fantasy series, A Song of Ice and Fire, likes to use the often cited refrain of, "When you play the Game of Thrones, you either live or you die." Which brings me to these. Playing cards have been with us since at least the 9th century, around the time that China decided to switch from rolls of paper to actual sheets. By the 11th century, cards could be found out through much of Asia. By the 14th century in Europe, the modern deck had taken shape. We had all the standard cards, from 1 to 10 were there, of course the 3 court or face cards were there as well, although in this case it was the king, the viceroy, and the underdeputy. The suits were also different depending on where you lived. Italy, Spain, and Portugal, the suits remained swords, staves, cups, and coins. In Germany, there were hearts, bells, leaves, and acorns. The suits that are in most common use today are our spades, hearts, diamonds, and clubs. And that began in France. By the late 14th century, the king was still the highest card in the deck, though now sometimes the ace held this special significance and would sometimes beat it in certain games. It has been proposed, though never really verified, that this was to symbolize, through the French Revolution, that the lowest classes were beating the privileged classes, or rising against the privileged classes. And John Green says nothing changed at the French Revolution. The French also innovated the reversible face card, so if you see me holding my jack or knave of hearts thusly, and I flip him around 180 degrees, he looks exactly the same. Now this is big because the only way before then to see face cards was one way. So if you were playing a game and you were looking around the table, all secret-like, and you saw people like flipping their cards around in their hand, you could kind of tell what they had already. It's the little things. Oh, and the jokers? Guess who invented those? Yep, America. Now it could be argued that all they did was borrow heavily from the tarot decks at the time, but they really wanted them for third trump and euchre, which is just a whole other story that we don't need to go into at this point. But what about kings specifically? Well, in the French design it said that every card represents a famous king from history. Take the King of Spades, for instance. The King of Spades is said to represent King David from the Bible. Now, whether or not the spades hold a special significance, it's hard to tell. The spades are a descendant of the sword suit from many other cultures. And King David is a celebrated warrior. However, it would seem that the spades would fit more of the other kings. David was also a musician and poet and wrote many of the Psalms read today. And maybe we're reading too much into this. However, the King of Spades is also the only king where the king is looking to the right. And maybe this is in reference to the fact that this is the bloodline to our future Messiah. Or the French are really weird, who knows? The King of Diamonds is the only king in the deck not depicted with a sword, but with an axe. Though, as you can see, there is no hand from the king carrying the axe, so possibly this is some sinister action from another. And this could be why the French assigned this to Julius Caesar. Best known because he was assassinated, and from his not last words, "You too, Brutus?" That brutal assassination is now the basis for a card you play Go Fish with your grandmother with. In truth though, which ruler deserves being on diamonds more? The utter pomposity and grandness of the Roman Empire probably made Caesar believe he was the diamond of the world. How quickly the world falls away with the thrust of a sword. The King of Clubs is said to be Alexander the Great. You can see that the clubs are not like the "I'm gonna beat you and murder you" clubs, but rather it looks like a bit of clover. This is probably an evolution of the acorn suit we were talking about earlier. Alexander is remembered for his military might, but is also responsible for opening up trade routes and founding large cultural centers. It was through bloodshed though, so I don't know how much he can be justified for doing that. But he was so darn cute. This is a good counter to Julius from before, whereas Alexander stormed around the world conquering civilizations and spreading Greek around the world. Julius was just trying to stamp that out, and now they can be seen together all the time. Actually, can I borrow your card for a second? Sure. Oh, thanks. Hey man, I just wanted to say, that you're pretty awesome and I'm sorry. Hey, you don't have to say that. I know that you're sorry. Yeah, just that you're so awesome with your tyranny and junk. Oh, you're pretty cool too. Really? You mean it? Oh, you're the best. Come here, let's hug. Okay. Stab! Sometimes I have fun. Well, that brings us to the King of Hearts, also colloquially known as the Suicide King. This is because it looks like the king is stabbing himself in the head. It's said to be Charlemagne or Charles VII, and there's really not a consensus on this. So let's go with Charlemagne, because I like saying it. So Charlemagne, see, isn't that fun? Is referred to as the father of Europe. No wonder that he was given the suit of hearts. He encouraged European identity and ruled over a revival in art, religion, and culture. Which card games are? They're culture. They're these 52 individual slips of paper that can be made into so many things. There's war games, strategy games, group games, individual games. They're basically the beginning of video game consoles. Although I guess I can't rip out somebody's spine to finish them. That's unfortunate. So whether or not you want to believe that the kings represent anything at all is up to you. I just think that the cards have this really special magical quality that has really nothing to do with magicians or sleight of hand, but all the way to do with how it has shaped our culture and our world. And I believe that everyone should have a packet of cards in their house, just so they can always pull it out and have fun. Which brings me to this. Checkmate? Wait, what game are we playing?